Okay, so I have found in my life that the products apps that I like the most are the ones that actually have the strongest opinions about how you should use them. I think of the opposite of this as like the big utility apps like Zoom. Zoom, it's got a giant dashboard of every possible feature you could ever
It
possibly want.
it is a dog's breakfast.
It is a true
It
dog's
is
breakfast.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Now, when I think about apps that I actually love, which is not Zoom, I think about my budget app, which is literally called You Need a Budget. People call it YNAB. And it's incredibly idiosyncratic. It says, hey, your job is to log every single one of your credit card expenses. And also, every paycheck you get, you need to immediately divvy it up into all your budget categories. And you can't use the app until you do. But if you do this, you will be free of financial stress. And I'm like, well, who would ever want to do this? And yet it works. And I think I love it so much because it's not trying to be popular, but it's trying to appeal to a smaller segment of people who will love what it's offering.
I love what you're saying about opinionated products. And I realize that like the most fun I've had in my career is when I got to work on products that could be opinionated. And I was thinking back to the work I did 10 years ago at the New York Times. It's 2015. And we were building a news app for the Apple Watch. And the Apple Watch had not come out yet. So no one had ever built a news app for the Apple Watch. Got it right here. We thought, okay, like, how do we get New York Times journalism onto this literally 38 millimeter piece of glass? And of course, right away, we tried headlines because they're short and explain the point of a story. But it didn't work. It felt impersonal. It didn't always make sense because oftentimes they were yanked from print or the web. And so we needed some unit of journalism that could tell the whole story in a line. And we called them one sentence stories. We made up this new unit of journalism, added it to the CMS. And it was, the idea was that it was a friend telling you something that had happened that day. And it was like really hard for us in all the best ways. Like it forced my editorial colleagues to get the New York Times-ness out of our writing. And we actually had this rule that you'd have to say the one sentence story out loud, and you have to preface it with, "Hey, did you hear?" So like no one would ever say, "Hey, did you hear the authorities found the suspect?" Like no one talks like that. And it was this like almost ridiculous exercise that actually helped us figure out how to write storytelling in a more personal way and in fewer characters.
So how did this end up? How did the story end?
Well, so the app didn't get a ton of downloads, not a huge commercial success, and it was eventually sunset. But that niche thing that we built, those one sentence stories, formed the basis for the New York Times' new iteration of push notifications for breaking news alerts. And that wound up being the single biggest driver of traffic to our biggest digital surface, which was the core mobile app.
Okay, so can I propose a new title for the manifesto that we're
Yeah.
writing right now? Like
Yeah.
I feel like the manifesto is make unpopular apps. If you're trying to make a popular app, you're trying to appeal to everybody, you're going to be building features right and left. You're going to be building out Zoom, you're going to be building out the big report at the Times. Where you get to have more fun, I think, is when you're like, nope, I am focusing on this person and this use case and this surface, and it's not going to be popular, but it will be loved.